faith we profess. In that spirit, shall we sing our opening hymn, number 202, Children of a Bright Tomorrow, 202 in the Green Hymn Book. Rather than have two readings, I'm going to have one, and I ask for your forbearance. This was an address I delivered to the Gandhi Foundation this year at Golders Green Unitarians. In previous addresses, I have paid tribute to Leo Tolstoy, Dr. Albert Schweitzer, Dr. Martin Luther King, Thich Nhat Hanh, Desmond Tutu, the Dalai Lama, and other apostles of nonviolence who continue to inspire us. Today I wish to honor not only Dr. Albert Schweitzer and Gandhi himself, but three other inspirational humanitarians, and propose a practical way we can honor their memory and their mission. The first is Clara Barton, who lived from 1821 to 1912. She was a Universalist founder of the American Red Cross and was known as the angel of the battlefield during the American Civil War. A practical humanitarian like Lord Shaftesbury, Gandhi, and Dr. Albert Schweitzer, Clara did make a real difference for the benefit of suffering humanity. She was driven above all by an ardent compassion for humankind, a burning desire to save lives and succor the victims of war and natural disasters. What nobler passion can there be? We may feel drawn to reflect on those universalist principles animating Clara in her work of practical compassion, principles which continue to inspire the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement worldwide in their life-saving work. Those principles of humanity impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, unity and universality. The second is Henri Dunant, who lived from 1828 to 1910. Remarkably, they're the same dates as my favorite novelist, Leo Tolstoy. In Russian, it's Lev Nikolaevich Tolstoy, but everyone says Tolstoy. The International Red Cross movement owes its existence to the vision of this Swiss humanitarian. He was a Swiss businessman. After witnessing the bloody Battle of Solferino in northern Italy, where Napoleon III's French army was fighting the Austrian forces, Henri was moved to write a short book, A Memory of Solferino. In it, he describes the battle itself, depicts the battlefield with its chaotic disorder, unspeakable despair, and misery of every kind, and the desperate efforts to care for the wounded. In his book, he advocates the establishment of an international society of relief organizations to provide care and succor for the war wounded. In 1863, a Geneva Society was established, and 39 delegates from 16 nations held a conference in Geneva to set up what became the International Red Cross. In 1864, 12 nations signed an international treaty commonly known as the Geneva Convention, and the familiar red and white cross emblem was adopted. It was not a Christian symbol, it was simply the colors of the Swiss flag in reverse. Dunant poured his money and energies into this humanitarian endeavor and was later to die in penury and neglect. Although Henri Dunant had suggested that the Red Cross societies provide disaster relief as well as wartime services for the war wounded, Clare became its strongest advocate in the years that followed. During the Third International Red Cross Conference in Geneva in 1884, the American Red Cross proposed an amendment to the Geneva Treaty, calling for the expansion of Red Cross relief work to include not only victims of war, but also those of natural disasters. This resolution passed and became known as the American Amendment to the Geneva Treaty. Dunant's living memorial is the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, just as Clara Barton's is a universal humanitarian mission of the Red Cross in all countries of the world in responding to natural disasters of all kinds, as well as alleviating the terrible sufferings caused by the scourge of war. We saw only recently the earthquakes in Venezuela. Is this not the spirit of the Good Samaritan in action? The third humanitarian I wish to honor is Eglantine Drebb, who lived from 1876 to 1928. In 1919, Eglantine, marvelous name, isn't it? A number of women's names of flowers, but not many Eglantines. Eglantine began handing out leaflets in Trafalgar Square after seeing horrifying newspaper photographs of starving children in Austria and Germany, innocent victims perceived as enemies during the First World War. Although a ceasefire had been declared on the 11th of November 1918, Allied forces continued to mount a blockade against so-called enemy ports, which severely restricted their access to essential supplies of food and medicines. As a result, famine threatened more than 3 million children, mainly in Germany, Austria, and Hungary. The newspaper images Eglantine saw inspired her to join the Fight the Famine Council, a concerned group working to get life-saving food and medical supplies to these children. Eglantine and her sister Dorothy, who became a Quaker and acted in the benevolent spirit of the Religious Society of Friends, actively campaigned for humanitarian aid to help children no matter who or where they were, and to lift the post-war blockade. Eglantine defied Edwardian social norms and accepted women's behavior and dress, and went to Trafalgar Square to arouse public interest in these starving children. Her leaflets showed a shocking photo of emaciated children with the headline, "Our blockade caused this. Millions of children are starving to death." Eglantine was arrested for her protest in London. She was found guilty, but it's notable that the prosecutor was so impressed with her passion and her commitment to the welfare of innocent suffering children that he offered to pay the fine himself. It was the first donation of the organization she went on to found in 1919, Save the Children, then called Save the Children Fund. She said, "I don't need the money, I'll give it to the charity." Within 2 years, Eglantine was leading a massive relief effort for children in Europe. The Russian famine of 1921 to 22 put millions of children in immediate and dire jeopardy. Many were dying of starvation. Through her impressive and tireless fundraising efforts, Save the Children brought shipments of hundreds of tons of food and medical supplies to Russia. Hundreds of thousands of children were fed each day. Eglantine recognized that children have unique needs, are vulnerable, and she passionately believed that everyone around the world should take responsibility for the world's children, their rights and their well-being. She went on to write the historic Declaration of the Rights of the Child, which was adopted in 1924 by the League of Nations. The Declaration of the Rights of the Child captured what Eglantine believed were the innate human rights of every child. "I believe," she wrote, "we should claim certain rights for children and labor for their universal recognition, so that everybody, not merely the small number of people who are in a position to contribute to relief funds, but everybody who in any way comes into contact with children, that is to say, the vast majority of humankind, may be in a position to help forward the movement." This declaration was adopted much later in an extended form by the United Nations in 1959. This in turn inspired the 1989 UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, a landmark human rights treaty for the protection of the world's children. Eglantine, exhausted by her campaigns and seriously ill with a thyroid condition, died in 1928 at the age of 52. Her vision and her life-saving mission live on in the dedicated worldwide work of Save the Children, now operating in 120 countries. So we're embarking on a practical initiative, not only to honor, but also to follow in the footsteps of these inspirational humanitarians. The purpose of this interfaith fellowship, the Gandhi Schweitzer Humanitarian Fellowship, is to honor the memory and ethical mission of compassion and profound empathy of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Albert Schweitzer by bringing people together to raise funds for the life-saving appeals of Save the Children and the British Red Cross for victims of war. In the Jerusalem Talmud, it stated, "Whoever destroys a soul, it is considered as if he destroyed an entire world. And whoever saves a life, it is considered as if he saved an entire world." And this thought is echoed in the Quran, where it stated, "Whoever saves one life saves all of humankind." It is this concern for the lives of all victims of war, which motivates us to act. I hope that you will consider joining our fellowship and act in a practical way to help end wars, cultivate an ethic of universal peace and compassion, and act to save human lives. Let us enter into the fellowship of prayer and reflection. Eternal Spirit of the universe, we reflect on the presence of evil in the world, its injustice, its cruelty, its hatred, and the blasphemy of war. May we be with those who seek to right the wrongs, heal the wounds, end the sufferings of our human family worldwide. How often we feel indignation at the evils we witness, and how we long to sweep them away. May impatience not override our wisdom, and our rage push aside our compassion and understanding in our own individual lives. May we show that we care about those who themselves cannot and will not care. May we strive for the right without despising others. We pray for a deeper understanding of the complexity and potential of each and every human soul. May be awakened to the power of love and never cease to work and witness for a better, more compassionate and peaceful world. Amen. We recall the words of the prophet Isaiah. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift sword against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore. Shall we enter to a short period of silent reflection and send our kind thoughts and healing prayers to all who need them? May we think in particular of the children of Gaza and Lebanon, the victims of war in every part of the globe, Sudan, and the victims of natural disasters, such as that suffered by the people of Venezuela. A prayer for our General Assembly. I was asked about 15 years ago to compose a prayer for our General Assembly. I very rarely, but this is one occasion on which I would like to share it. Eternal Spirit, we celebrate the unity and diversity of our Unitarian General Assembly and the congregations of individuals it joins together in loving fellowship. May we guard and cherish always the right of religious free thought, won for us by the sacrifices of past generations. We celebrate the joy of being together, of exploring in community the mystery and wonder of life, the transient and the eternal. May we, in our diverse Unitarian family, gently engage each other's hearts and minds. Wherever we are on our common journey, may we see ourselves in others and respond to their needs. We celebrate the spirit of goodwill shown by all who serve our General Assembly, its congregations, its districts, including our LDPA, and its affiliated societies. We celebrate and value the precious ties of fellowship with Unitarians and Universalists worldwide. May we reach out to people of goodwill the world over who strive for global justice, international peace, and the rights and dignity of all. We celebrate our links with the United Nations, the International Red Cross and Red Crescent, Amnesty International, Save the Children, and all organizations bearing witness for human solidarity and the protection of our common rights worldwide. May we ourselves see ourselves in the faces of all victims of injustice. In a spirit of universal compassion, may we show we care by our actions. Spirit of life and love, inspire us with the unfading vision of the peaceable kingdom imagined by Rabbi Jesus of Nazareth and other prophets and sages throughout the ages. We fondly dream of that ideal commonwealth in which all living creatures may dwell in love and peace. Touch our hearts to struggle with passion and with invincible hope to realize that vision here on earth. In that spirit, shall we sing our next hymn, number 229 in the Green Hymn Book? One world, this for all its sorrow, number 229.
Vanity or heaven, we to whom our world is given. From one world there is no turning, for one world the prophets yearning, one the world of poets, sages, one world, goal of all the ages. One world from the beginning, on the world we would be winning. One world eagerly expected, was all it. Honest government can build it. World of friendly ways and faces, sharing hearts and honored races. One world, free in world and science. People free, its family lives.
In the spirit of that hymn, my address touches on the global ethic of the Parliament of the World's Religions. In 1993, at the Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago, hundreds of leaders from the world's faith traditions gathered to articulate something bold, a shared moral foundation for humanity. The result was the Declaration Toward a Global Ethic. It was an American, so they said toward rather than towards. Drafted initially by the theologian Hans Kung and refined by more than 200 scholars and religious leaders. It was endorsed by representatives of the world's major religions as a statement of universal ethical commitments, not a creed, not a doctrine, but a moral compass pointing towards a more just and peaceful world. The declaration begins with stark honesty. The world is in agony. And just think, after this 9/11, war in Iraq, now Iran, Gaza, how much worse it's got since then. It names violence, poverty, environmental destruction, and injustice as wounds that cut across nations and traditions. It insists that no single religion, nation, or ideology can solve these crises alone. We need shared values, a truly global ethic rooted in our common humanity. That was 1993. That meeting of the Parliament of the World's Religions was 100 years after the first ever in 1893 in Chicago. That 1893 was the first ever global gathering of the world's religions. Here we are in 2026, more interconnected and more fractured than ever. The world is still in agony, but the declaration remains astonishingly relevant, even prophetic. It calls us back to commitments. The original 4 commitments were non-violence, justice, truthfulness, and partnership between men and women. And a 5th commitment was added, that of the respect for the living earth. Today we might examine these commitments. In the case of between men and women, we might expand that commitment to include the full dignity and equality of all genders and identities. But the spirit remains the same, a shared moral foundation for a shared world. Because we are living in a time of profound global tension, wars continue to displace millions. Democracies strain under misinformation and polarization. Economic inequality widens. The climate emergency accelerates. And many people understandably feel powerless, overwhelmed by the scale of suffering and the speed of change. The global ethic reminds us that ethical action is not optional, it is the price of living together on this small, fragile planet. It tells us that peace is not merely the absence of war, it is the presence of justice. It tells us that truth is not a luxury, it is a foundation of trust, something which the Dalai Lama has emphasized many times. It tells us that compassion is not sentimental, it's the glue that holds communities together. And it tells us something else. Ordinary people like us matter. Ethical transformation does not begin in parliaments and boardrooms. It begins in human hearts, in daily choices, in the courage to live differently. What can ordinary people who feel the world has become too big, too fast, too complicated actually do? The global ethic is clear. Every person has agency. Every person can contribute to peace. Every person can choose compassion over indifference. And Bernard Shaw, the great Irish playwright, once said that the opposite of love is not necessarily hatred, but maybe indifference. If we're indifferent to the people of Gaza, does it matter whether we care or not? We're not taking any action. Here are ways that ordinary people, including those who feel their physical strength or mobility has changed, can live the global ethic in 2026. We can practice non-violence in daily life. Non-violence is not only about war, it's about how we speak, how we listen, how we treat those who disagree with us. How relevant that is in the age of Trump. In a world of online shouting and political division, choosing gentleness is itself a radical act. We can practice non-violence by refusing to share misinformation, speaking kindly in a world that rewards outrage, particularly online, modeling patience in conversations that feel tense, being a calm presence in a fearful world. Non-violence begins with the tone we set. We can stand for justice in small, steady ways. Justice is not only achieved through marches or legislation. They're important and they have their place. It is also achieved through solidarity, through noticing who is left out, through refusing to look away. We can write letters to MPs, support charities that advance equality, mentor younger people, share stories of past struggles for justice, such as the suffragettes, vote with conscience and clarity. Justice is built from countless small acts of moral courage. We can build bridges of understanding. The global ethic emphasizes truthfulness, not only factual truth, but relational truth, the willingness to see others as fully human. We can listen deeply to younger generations, share wisdom without insisting on certainty. Surely that is the Unitarian way. Reach out to neighbors who may feel isolated. Learn about diverse cultures, faiths, and identities, those different from our own. Tell our own story with honesty and humility. Understanding is a form of peace building. So what are we called to action as Unitarians? Unitarianism, and I prefer the American Unitarian Universalism. To me, universalism is what's really important. Unitarian is an adjective to do with the Trinity originally, but universalism is accepting, in the spirit of Maimonides, the great Jewish sage, the truth from all sources. Unitarianism has always affirmed that revelation is not sealed. The truth is found not in one scripture, but in many. And of course, in the great works of world literature and great music and art. That spirituality is conveyed. The global ethic aligns beautifully with our Unitarian principles. Our tradition calls us to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, seek justice, equity, and compassion, build a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect the independent web of all existence. Those of you who are knowledgeable about Unitarian Universalism, these are the principles of Unitarian Universalist Association. To me, they're far more inspiring than our DREA object, which was cobbled together for the sake of the Charity Commission. But these are not abstract ideals. They're daily practices. They are the work of ordinary people. In 2026, the call to action for Unitarians is surely clear. We should be a voice of peace, not a passive peace that avoids conflict, but rather in the spirit of Mahatma Gandhi, an active peace that confronts injustice with courage and compassion. Be stewards of truth. In an age of misinformation, truthfulness is a spiritual discipline. Be builders of community, reaching across divides, welcoming the stranger, creating spaces where difference is not feared, but honored. And finally, and I know that this will appeal to Victor Anderson, be guardians of the planet. The global ethic condemns the destruction of Earth's ecosystems. Our faith calls us to protect the web of life. This is a challenge. How can we meet it together? As we reflect on that, we shall have our collection and a beautiful piece of music from Zoe. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Zoe. Some inspirational words of the great Hindu sage Swami Yogananda. Let the ugliness of unkindness in others compel us to strive for beauty with loving kindness. May harsh speech from others remind us to use sweet and considerate words. If stones from evil minds are cast at us, may we return only missiles of goodwill. As a jasmine vine sheds its flowers over the hands delivering axe blows at its roots, so to all who act with hostile intentions towards us, may we shower the blossom of forgiveness. Shall we sing together our closing hymn, number 209? written by the American Unitarian Universalist minister Jacob Trapp. It's notable that this utopian hymn was written a few weeks before Adolf Hitler's assumption of power in Germany. Perhaps that utopian vision has never been more needed, because Oscar Wilde said that no map of the world is complete without utopia. Hymn number 209.
Wonders will the world shall witness, never known in days of old. Never dreamed by ancient sages, howsoever free and bold. Sons and daughters shall inherit onward path to us unknown. Oh, peace its splendor over all the world has thrown. They shall rule with winged freedom, worlds of health and human good, worlds of commerce, worlds of science, all made one and understood. They shall know a world transfigured, which our eyes but dimly see. They shall reign its towns and moon, and beautiful from sea to sea. For a spirit then shall move them, we but vaguely apprehend. Aims magnificent and then shall bloom in song and fragrant harmony of thought and deed, fruits of peace and love and trust is where today we plant the seed.
Swami Yogananda wrote that seek to do brave and compassionate things that are left undone by the majority of people. Give gifts of love and peace to those whom others pass by. And my closing words of benediction: we expect to pass this way only once. Any good, therefore, that we can do, any kindnesses we can show to any fellow creatures, let us do so now. Let us not neglect or defer it, for we shall not pass this way again. Amen. warm thanks to Zoe and thank you.
And thank you, Fergus, for coming all this way and for reminding us of so many truths. Thank you. Thank you, Zoe. And thank you, Stuart, for setting up and everything else that you do. And Fiona's just gone to make us some tea. And if you want tea on Sunday, the 2nd of August, put your name down, please. There's a little list and there's a gap on the 2nd of August. So if you could do that one, thank you. Next Sunday at 11, the service will be led by our Minister, Jennifer. This evening at 5 will be a quiet contemplative circle here in the church for about an hour. On Wednesday, the church will be open from 12:30 to 1:15 for tea and coffee, followed by an hour of quiet reflection led by Jennifer. And also on Wednesday at 7:30 is Heart and Soul, our online Zoom meeting, and the session will be led by Safar. If you need the link and you're not on our mailing list, please speak to Jen in the yellow shirt. On Friday, the lunchtime concert is from 12:30 to 1:15 with refreshments in the hall from 12. And performing will be pianist John Bruzon, who's a local, very well-acclaimed pianist. And he'll be presenting music by Chopin and Liszt. On Saturday is a performance by Women of Note, which is the choir that our administrator, Kat, sings in. And they're a very good little choir and worth coming to hear. They're really good fun. And so at 3 o'clock on Saturday, in here, come. Next Sunday, Lewis Unitarians will hold their service at Cliff Hall at 3:30, and the service leader will be the Reverend Jim Corrigal, and his theme will be "Do Not Be Afraid." Everybody's welcome to that. And that's it, really. If you'd like to make a donation and you don't have cash, there's a card reader over there. And apart from that, stay for refreshments and a chat.
Thank you. Yes, I will.